what is one super practical little bit of advice that our listeners, whether they're working in an organization, in a big corporate or a small organization, whether they're running their business, whoever they are, might be able to go away and do something tomorrow, the next day, something really simple and small
Mhm.
to help them maybe think about sustainability a little bit more?
Yeah. So I think coming back to what I said earlier around you've got huge power as a consumer. And the kind of best example I think is which most of us have got now is your pension. So whether it's a company pension or a personal pension, they invest a huge amount of money on your behalf and they invest your money. So one of the best things you can do from a sustainability point of view is to speak to your pension provider, whether it's your company or your personal pension, and ask them where they're investing your money and is it ethical. So there's a growing now wave of pension companies and investments that are looking at ESG measures and ethical investments. But generally, the market's quite slow to switch. So
Yeah.
the more people that ask those questions, the quicker that's going to happen. And that's probably, the most money you're spending, apart from buying a house, most of your money will often go into your pension. So simply asking that question, even if you never change, but just by raising that as a consideration, will help to drive change. So if I was going to suggest anything, just ask that question your pension provider: where are you investing my money? Is it ethical?
Yeah. It's actually something I did a few months ago. And I hate talking about stuff like sensible things like pensions and stuff. I proper had to put my big girl pants on and
Hmm.
have a proper grown up conversation about the future and money and all. I was like,
Hmm.
oh gosh, I hate this.
Yeah.
But it was one thing that I was insistent on, is that if we were going to change anything, we would change it to be an ethical fund.
Yeah.
And what was really interesting in the conversation I had with the pension provider is that I started with the conversation, I want it to be invested ethically because, as you say, over time it becomes the biggest investment you make, probably apart from property, doesn't it?
Hmm.
Is that I said it, and I said the following words to him. I said, and I don't mind if that means it's not as um, successful in terms
Hmm.
of growth or money. And he turned around to me and said, Beth, they're all possibly even more
Yeah.
successful now.
Yeah.
And actually the message, I think the messaging is starting to change. But in my head I was thinking, if I'm going ethical, I won't make as much money. It's the
Yeah.
same conversation about profit and purpose, isn't
Hmm.
it?
Hmm.
It's like, actually some of those funds are now performing better
Yeah.
because they're getting some traction, because things are, people,
Exactly.
consumers are starting to swap to them.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that I won't sit there and review them regularly, because I think also,
Hmm.
again, a bit like things aren't perfect, are they? But I have to say, it did feel good to actually have that conversation and to go, right, what can I do as a consumer?
Yeah.
And I totally forget about this, and I'm sure many people do. That as a consumer, we do have power. I totally,
Hmm.
I was underusing my power there,
Yeah.
and
And
actually
most
taking
people
that and
do.
doing it
Yeah.
and doing something about it. And as you say, you can't, if you're in an organization pension scheme, you can't always change everything, but you will have the opportunity to ask questions, to see where people go, to get people thinking about
Yeah.
these things. And even if it's just a question on whoever the pension trustees are, so that they
Hmm.
know that people are interested, the more people that come along and say, hang on a minute, where's this invested, the more likely they are to do something about it.
Completely. And I think that's it. I think even just asking the question, even if it doesn't result in suddenly your company pension scheme changing, if you're in a big organization, lots of people are asking similar questions, guess what's going to happen? Someone somewhere will be looking at it. So, and the
Yeah.
same as if your own personal pension. So I but it's a hugely powerful thing we can do, and like you say, chances are we'll probably perform better as well.
Yeah. And it might just be that I mean, I don't know the answer to that question properly, but I was really surprised that that
Mm.
was the that came back to me, not a, yeah, you might not get as good a percentage
Yeah.
on these things. So it was a delight to hear that, obviously. But I have to say again, and it's also probably a good thing for all of us to do, is sometimes you have to put your big pants on and do the stuff you don't want to do to
Yeah.
make it happen. And
Yeah.
there's some other stuff I probably need to do when I do the looking at the business stuff and looking at my sustainability, to kind of go, okay, this, you might not like this, but this is something you're going to have to change, or this
Yeah.
is
But you
something
do
you're going to
get a
have to
warm
deal with.
fuzzy feeling afterwards. So
Oh yeah, like I totally was. I totally was like, right, I've done something good for the world today in
yeah,
doing that.
completely.
And it might, in comparison to a lot of people, it's probably only a very small amount of money, but it's something. And
Uh-huh.
we can so get lost in the idea that the big things are someone else's responsibility. We can't control everything. You cannot
Hmm.
control everything. Life is impossible, but there's stuff that we can do, and for me, that's a really big message of what we're taking away today.
Yeah, completely.